Good day, grade 9. I hope you're all well. I just want to say thank you so much for all of your hard work. Keep it up and keep the questions coming. We're starting a new unit, and this is all about Christian discipleship. And the topic for this week is the cost of discipleship. And you'll find that in Luke chapter 14, verses 25 to 35. So what we're going to do is to understand the requirements of being a disciple of Jesus is. I'm going to describe the illustrations that Jesus used to highlight the cost of discipleship, and we're going to identify how Christians can be good disciples today, and we'll look at that as we go through. Okay, so to begin with, what is a disciple? It literally means a pupil or a learner. But it's different from being a student now, because they would make a distinct effort to follow in the rabbi's footsteps. So, for example, John the Baptist's disciples, they would fast when he would fast. So they would copy the way that their rabbi lived. And the rabbis during Jesus's time, they would have specific requirements, and Jesus made it clear to the people that were thinking about maybe becoming his disciples, that it would not be easy. It was going to be demanding. Jesus knew what was to follow. He knew that he would be being punished and persecuted, and he wanted to make sure that the disciples knew that this was the case. And Christians today can then use these teachings about how to be a disciple and what is expected in order to encourage them in their lives. Okay, so Jesus, as we said, he wanted to make sure that the disciples knew what to expect and what they were required to do. And the first one was that disciples must love Jesus above everyone. Okay, so this is love Jesus more than your parents, more than your spouse. Jesus should come first. Another one was to you would have to deny any personal wants, so not be so materialistic. And Jesus asked his disciples to give up what they owned. Another one that was that they must be willing to carry the cross. We've heard this before. To carry a cross is to deal with difficulties. He was telling them this is not going to be easy. So if you're not up for the challenge, don't come forward. And finally, they needed to be obedient not only to him, but also be loyal to God. So to explain further what was meant, he used different analogies and different parables. So the first one was about someone that was going forward to build a tower. And he was saying before you build a tower, you would sit down and check that you have enough money to complete it. You wouldn't start building it, you wouldn't lay the foundations if you weren't able to finish the job. Because people would turn around and they would laugh at you. What does this teach us? Jesus is telling them that they needed to consider the cost of following him before they committed. Okay, so don't start to commit if you don't understand all of the requirements. And it's also telling us that if you're not truly committed, you'd fail. And this failure would be yours because it means that you haven't considered what is needed before commencing following Jesus. Okay, the second analogy that he used was a king going to war. And it's saying that you would sit down and consider whether your 10,000 men could beat the 20,000 of the other king. And if your 10,000 wouldn't be able to win, then you would send a delegate off to ask for peace. What's this teaching us? Christianity may be a warfare. A disciple must consider the benefits of allying with Jesus. And the opposite of that then, look at the disastrous effects if you try to go against Jesus. Okay, Jesus's army is stronger, he has the truth, and therefore if you decide to go against him, the effects aren't going to be good. And then finally, the last part of that, you see, it says, in the same way, those of you who do not give up everything you have cannot be my disciples. So again, he's reinforcing the idea that they will need to give up their possessions and not be so materialistic. Okay, the final one that he used was concerning salt. And he said salt's really good, but if it loses its saltiness, then it can never be made salty again. So therefore, it's useless and will be thrown out. I want you to use your Jesus and his legacy notes here to look at the different ways during that time that salt could be made unsalty. And salt is really useful, okay, as a seasoning, as a fertilizer, or as a preservative, and it would have been used a lot by people in Jesus's time. So again, he's talking to what they would know. As we said, once the saltiness is there, it's useless. And the disciples of Jesus should be useful and effective. So it's saying, don't be the salt that loses its saltiness. Then you're no use, okay? You need to make sure that you're an effective disciple, that actually you're doing what is required of you. Otherwise, there's no use for you. So it's kind of telling them, well, if you're not doing the job that I require from you, then you won't be able to follow me anymore. And I like this idea of Christians being the salt of the earth, being honest, being good, and making others thirst for Christ. If you add too much salt, you get very thirsty. So also you could be saying, keep your saltiness, keep your goodness, do what is required of you, and therefore you will bring other people to Christ. So we've seen that in order to be a disciple, you're going to have to maybe give up what you know. There will be difficult times. You must be prepared to fight. And then what can be the cost of it then? What can be the effects of being a disciple? And I want you to relate this to Christian persecution. And this can be traced back from the beginning of the Christian era right up until the present day. And this can include martyrs. It's gone into genocide and freedom of religion not being allowed, and freedom of movement not being allowed. And you'll see in the document with your work on, I've given some really useful links there to to websites about Christian persecution, and that's what I want you to do for your JPR, is look into the history of Christian persecution, really. Okay, so watch this video. Hopefully my camera skills have improved somewhat from last time. As I've said, it would be really good to start making your revision cards now. If you make them now while you've got that bit of extra time, you've got them safe, and then they'll be used for your BGCSE. So if you make your clear notes now on your revision cards or your mind maps, however you find learning information, I would advise getting them made now. Remember, make sure you email me or WhatsApp me if you have any questions, anything you're unsure of, anything you want re-explaining. Read the scripture and make sure you're familiar with it. And also, if you look on my channel, I'll have given other ideas for videos as well. So in the Word document, there's another video and some websites there that are also going to help to strengthen your knowledge, okay? And then once you've completed the questions, upload the document onto Plus Portal. Again, there's another 10 mark JPR in this. I know I'm pushing you grade 9, but you are accelerated and you're more than capable. The work that you're producing at the moment is excellent. I just want to push you that a little bit more. So the JPR is asking about Christian persecution, and use them extra resources there to do your own independent research, okay? And make sure you're referencing when you do use a different source. Okay, yeah, guys, let me know if you need anything. Take care, and hopefully I'll see you all soon. Okay, bye-bye.